Hey, Danny, how you doing today?
Hey Chris, thanks for having me on your show.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm looking forward to this. I tell you, folks, I was so excited when Danny wanted to be on the show, and I was so honored because he's a successful lifestyle business entrepreneur that is kind of living the life a lot of people want to live. I can tell you from my own perspective. And when I thought about bringing Danny on, the other reason I was so psyched is I realized that as a coach, you have a chance to create a lifestyle business, whether you want to travel the world or not. So you definitely want to listen. Definitely want to stick around. Remember, we go for about an hour, and at the very, very end, we're going to give you a special offer from Danny. But before we get into all of that, and before we have all the fun we're going to have today, as usual, we're going to go through Danny's hero's journey. And once again, we're going to talk about the beginning, the turning point, and the aftermath to getting Danny to where he is today. So, Danny, before we dive into the deep down and dirty details, give us a quick overview of your hero's journey, where you started. And remember, like 30, 60 seconds, something like that, just a quick overview, where you started, kind of that low point you got to, or the point you got to, low or not, that turned it around, and then the aftermath, where you're at today.
Yeah, sure. So I've always had entrepreneurship in my DNA. My father was an entrepreneur, started several companies, and he kind of grew me up to be an entrepreneur, groomed me that way anyway, since I was a young boy. When I was 7, 8 years old, I would go around, knocking on people's doors, offering to take out their trash for them, stuff like that. I started up a POG business, which was like a little game. Back in the 90s, when I was about 10 or 11. Just a series of businesses, a lot of trial and error, a succession of failures, a lot of failing. Some successes, but it was certainly hard won. I joined the military. I've been a martial arts instructor. I've been to an art school. I studied advertising. After that, I had like a big choice I had to make about the rest of my life, and realized that it was a big choice to make, and I wasn't really ready to kind of just dive into conventional career paths. So I just kind of, at that point, it was like sink or swim. I was homeless at that point, and kind of just couch surfing at my cousin's place, and really just hit the ground hard. Started to offer advertising services to clients. That grew, and eventually I picked up some good clients, and through a period of really working hard, building myself up, reading one business book per week. I was studying everything from Dan Kennedy, direct marketing, business systems. I was able to simplify what I was offering, and really increase the profit margins significantly, and reduce my working hours from about 60, 70 hours to 10 hours a week.
Awesome, that's epic. It's kind of funny because as soon as you mentioned Dan Kennedy, a big smile came to my face because I knew through our interactions there's somewhere deep inside there was a GKIC or at least somebody, for those of you who don't know, Glazer Kennedy Insider Circle, or at least somebody who has studied Dan. I was fortunate enough I'm fortunate enough to be friends with a couple of his marketers of the year, Charlie McDermott and Jeff Gianconva. I can't pronounce. Jeff's got this great Italian last name. Can't pronounce it, but he sells $30,000 mattresses and makes a good living doing it. So anyway, but that's not the point of this episode. So it's great to kind of summarize that for our viewers. It was beautiful because Danny, he had this very eclectic background. Military arts kind of doesn't seem like it might fit together. Then again, I know somebody else who started off as an artist and went through West Point. Topic for another time. But then, as all great, eventual great entrepreneurs went through that couch surfing homeless period, and then finally said, hey, I gotta figure out how to turn this around. And by the way, it'd be much, better to be able to travel the world, work, 10 hours a week and do everything I want to do and still make a great living doing it, rather than the 60 to 80 hours a week. And before I go on, one of the things I want everybody to really realize something: hard work is great. But there's an old story that people tell about a guy living on an island, and the short version is that the guy living on the island is coaxed into trying to create this huge business And the Westerner finally says, after the guy on the island asked him why enough times, he says, so that you can build this big business and then retire and sell it and retire on an island. And the guy on the island just kind of laughs and casts his fishing rod out again. So Danny, I applaud you. You're living on that island right now, man. It's, you know, he's in Bangkok. By the way, we forgot to tell folks, he's coming to us live today from Bangkok, which is, you know, for people who grew up in the 80s, you know, the Oriental city where the city. Anyway, we're going off on a way too big of a tangent, so let's get right into this. Let's get into Danny's hero's journey. Danny, tell us more about the beginning, and let's find out more a little bit about where you came from and the beginning, you know, pre-turnaround time.
Sure. So to continue where I was, I think that you know, Dan Kennedy's books are a great value for what you pay for them. You can buy them in like the No BS books in most major bookstores. I don't know if bookstores are still even around these days, but so there's some like, you know, like No BS Direct Marketing, for example. Like you can take case studies from those books and apply them directly to your own business. So when I kind of first created my business, my online advertising business, I really didn't know what I was doing. I had an advertising degree, but it gave me skills on like Photoshop and stuff. I didn't know anything about web design. I had to teach myself that. I didn't know anything about online video marketing. I had to teach myself that. You know, I spent, you know, $3,500 on one course to learn online marketing stuff, and it was really kind of 80–90% learning, and then the rest of it just testing stuff out. And you know, I've offered to work for people for free at first, you know, if I had to, just so I could get some hands-on experience and some results. You know, it was a lot of work.
Yeah, so let me interrupt you right there, because one of the things that's great, and we're talking about the beginning of his, I'll say his, right now we're talking about the beginning of Danny's second life, so to speak, is, you know, after that couch surfing incident, this kind of sounds like, hey, this is where we're going to go, this is where we're going to go ahead, and that's great. One of the things I want everybody to realize is that free is definitely underrated in this society right now. You've got a lot of big names telling you never to do anything for free, and Danny's living proof that if you do it in the right way, at the beginning, to get some experience, if you do it the right way, you can build a successful business going on from there. So you were out there, you were doing some stuff for free to get you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think barter is a great thing to do, especially if you can. It's usually hard to. Hey, Chris, you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah.
Oh, it dropped out for a second. Would I stop sharing it? Okay, sorry. You can edit that. It's often hard to close deals, especially if you're trying to get good clients. But if you can do some kind of trade, that often is more productive. You know, when I first learned how to do Google Maps optimization, for example, for small businesses, I just went to the pizza place that I eat at. You know, that I used to eat at like several times a week, and just said, you know, hey, I'm learning about this. Let me try it out. And then once I had some proven results, it was easier to get other clients. I've also done a variety of, you know, when I learned web design, WordPress, I would travel around. I would go to like the Philippines or someplace in Mexico, and I would have a deal worked out or Thailand. You know, I would say, you know, I'll help you get a website up for your hotel. In exchange, I want a place to stay, my own room and stuff for a month or so, and you know, can save a lot of money that way. It takes me like 2 days to set up the website for them, and then I can just kind of do what I want. I really like that approach as well.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, I think, you know, Oscar Wilde said that anyone who lives within their means suffers from a lack of imagination. So there's always, especially if you're an entrepreneur, you really have to kind of come up with creative solutions to common problems. And if you just follow the conventional path, you know, doing the default path for every single problem that you face, whether it's money, time, wanting to travel, then you're not really being entrepreneurial. You're just kind of holding yourself back. And entrepreneurs are really people who are willing to operate in that realm of uncertainty, in that realm of kind of chaos, and find the best way. And we can talk more about that. I guess I'm digressing a little bit here, but I think it's an important point to make.
Yeah, definitely, and I'm sure we'll touch more on that in the second half of today's episode. The other thing I find interesting that you bring up the barter system, especially at the beginning. So remember, folks, we're focusing on the beginning before Danny's turnaround and before the turning point into having an ultra successful business. The other thing that I find interesting, I just came across this. I think Danny, it was in the Facebook group that you invited me to, Worldwide Digital Nomads. And somebody I think posted about there's a hostel, like I think it's in the Philippines or something, that's looking for artists and writers and bloggers and everything to come, and they'll give them a free month or something like that if they just come and do the artistic things. And it was amazing. So the reason I bring it up is because for those of you who are at the beginning like Danny, you got to start, and you want to, when we talk about the 10-hour per week business in the second half, and you want to get to that point, just like Danny did, you got to go out and look and search for these very unique opportunities. And I think, whether it's going to a hotel and whether it's going to a hotel and offering to do their website or do some social media for them or what have you, you got to look for those unique opportunities, right, Danny?
Well, yeah, and there's definitely growing opportunities out there. Apprenticeships are growing now. There's a lot of remote virtual companies who are offering apprenticeships where you can earn a sum, and you come out to a place like Ho Chi Minh City, for instance, and they put you in an apartment, and you basically work for them. I mean, and they give you a flat rate each month, and you're really learning from proven entrepreneurs who are experienced, and there's really no price value you can put on that. As far as if you really want to make a change in your life, whether it's my book Buy Your Own Island is all about helping people realize whatever their island is, whatever their dream goal for their life is, helping them actualize it. And a big part of, if you want to make a change in your life, a big dramatic change in your life, whether it's a career change or whether you want to start a business or travel the world, you really need to be able to give yourself a runway. And we see that model has proven itself. If you go to Tropical MBA, for instance, they have an apprenticeship. I don't know if it's an apprenticeship, but they have an opportunity where you can go to a hotel, I think for about 6 months or so, and they cover your room and board, and in exchange you help the hotel with like marketing, for a couple hours a day. And this model has been proven. I mean, if it's the old strategy of trading space for time. You really gotta just fail forward and get as much hands-on experience as you can, and just keep learning until finally it cracks and you find the opportunity, and then you can just kind of put everything you have into it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm so glad you mentioned that. I'm quite sure a lot of our viewers are going to head right out and look for Tropical MBA, because 6 months at a hotel just to help with some marketing sounds like a great plan. So let me wrap up the beginning segment. What we've heard so far is that Danny's been through a roller coaster, and when he started this very successful business that he's got right now, traveling the world and being a worldwide digital nomad, he did a lot of very unique things to do it. Now we're going to get to the turning point. So Danny, in the first part, we really talked about the beginning and kind of before the business got successful. In every business, in every successful business, in every successful life, there comes a turning point where you go from doing free, doing apprenticeships, finding very unique things to do, to either hitting a low or to figuring something out. And what I want to focus on for about the next 6 to 8 minutes is just that turning point. When did you see it happen? When, could you see it coming? What did you do when it got here? Stuff like that. So let's start with the, like I said, we go back, you're doing all this stuff for free, you're starting to do some travel, you're starting to do work for people. First of all, did you see that turning point coming? I mean, were you like, kind of look at the head, look at ahead going, wow, I can see this out a month or two and things are going to get better? Or did it just sneak, did the time things started to change just sneak up on you?
I don't know if there was any single turning point. I think that it's something that's really accumulated. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've changed a lot over the last 5-6 years. I'm a lot more confident, a lot more self-aware, a lot more capable of it. there wasn't a single turning point. It was kind of an accumulation of events, and it's really just about, we all wrestle with feelings of inadequacy, where maybe we're not getting enough validation, enough positive feedback, and we tend to draw upon reference experiences. So if something doesn't go the way we want it to, then how do we respond to that event? How do we respond to that stimulus? Do we blow it out of proportion and say, let's say for instance, you get rejected by someone who you're interested in, and you're going to blow it out of proportion and say, oh, I guess men aren't interested in me, or I guess women aren't interested in me. That's not the case. If you can accumulate enough validation in whatever area it is, enough reference experiences that show that you are good enough, that you are whole, you are complete just the way you are, I think that can make a longer, more lasting change than if you try to pinpoint some single isolated event. So to accumulate reference experiences, I mean, if you ever come to a fork in the road, if you ever have a chance to take action, just do it. I think travel is a great way to get validation, and you also learn a lot about the world at the same time. I mean, we see a lot of people who kind of find that validation that they've been seeking for their whole lives when they start to travel. Because everyone's jealous of them and they're so cool now because they travel. So whatever it is, I mean, you need to find something that you can be really passionate about, something that you can excel at, and if you can get enough reference experiences to show that you are good just as you are, you have these talents, you have these passions that are awesome, and you don't feel this feelings of insecurity, of inadequacy anymore. And when you're in that kind of place where you're comfortable in your own skin, I think then you're in a position to kind of create something meaningful and really make a positive impact in the world.
Yeah, boy, that is so deep, and I'm so glad you said that. It's kind of interesting. One of the things I want the viewers to all key in on is the fact that, it wasn't one single, turning point. A lot of times we hear, and you've heard this before, about that hockey stick moment where, you're going along like this, and then all of a sudden you hit this point right here, and things just boop, shoot up overnight. And while in some cases, in very rare cases, it still works, like, Danny's a perfect testament to the fact that it's all about growing and your experiences along the way till you hit that critical mass of having enough experiences and enough of not only the experience to be able to prove yourself, but enough of that downtime and kind of going through enough stuff that you are ready to come out on the other side. Right, Danny?
Yeah, well, you don't fell a tree with one blow of the axe. You keep hacking away at it, and gradually the tree falls. But it's not a single isolated event. I mean, you are what you consistently do. You have to make whoever it is you want to be, whatever it is you want to become. You have to ingrain that into who you are and make it a habit, and consistently practice that habit. And I think the thing that we struggle with the most, whatever it is, if there's any area we want to go in life, I mean, whether it's we want to get in shape, let's say, like physical shape, is that we make it really hard to adhere to that consistency, to that habit. So it's really about finding the inflection point where you can get the highest lever, get the most leverage. If you have a lever that's long enough, you can move the world. So if you can make it so simple that you can adhere to it and get the maximum results with the minimum amount of effort, I think then you're on the right path.
Excellent. So let me ask you this: there's one more thing in the whole turning point. I know there wasn't one single turning point, but from that low point, or from the lull before you created the successful business you have today, and we're going to talk about that success in the aftermath segment coming up. But before we get there, what if I just had to say right now, from that turning point, what was the biggest learning, the biggest aha? The biggest thing, not necessarily you look at it as a turning point, but it's that biggest thing. If somebody said, hey, boom, biggest thing you learned during the turning point, what would it be?
The biggest thing that I learned during the turning point, well, like I said, it's really about instilling a daily kind of, when I was younger, I always felt like I had a chip on my shoulder, like I had something to prove, like I had, something was incomplete with me, because I wasn't successful, and the world was telling me that I'm gonna have to start at the bottom, and I didn't feel that way. I felt like I was perfectly capable. I was perfectly intelligent. But I don't feel those same feelings of insecurity anymore. But I do have a daily practice where I have multiple daily practices. So it's kind of become a consistent habit where, like a gratitude journal, for example. I'll focus on the positive things so that when I face an obstacle, a roadblock, that I can respond to it positively. I can interpret the event in a positive light. I have different exercises that I practice that I've developed through habit, and that's really been what I've kind of accumulated as a result of this turning point, this change in my thought behaviors and patterns.
Wow, that is awesome. And I tell you, from meeting with you, from prepping the show, I can never picture you with a chip on your shoulder. I mean, you're a very calm and it's just, you're a very calm and nice guy. I can't ever picture you with a chip on your shoulder. So it's great that you were that self-aware. And the other thing, our viewers, I really want you to take out of this is that, he's during your turning point, you need to start figuring out the habits that will create a successful aftermath. And that's really the key there. So now that we've talked about Danny's beginning and the turning point, let's go ahead and get into the aftermath. This is what I'm sure a lot of people also want to hear about, the great successes. So you came from a point of doing stuff for free and trading time for space. By the way, I love that saying, and I'm probably showing my ignorance by going, I've never heard that, but I love that saying. So you were trading time for space. Now you're at the point where you've come past the turning point, where your business is on the upswing, starting to be successful and becoming the successful business it is today. So let's talk about that journey in the aftermath. Let's start off with this. This is a question I've never asked anybody before. Do you remember getting into the aftermath, your first big paying client? And you don't have to mention their name if you don't want to, but do you remember your first big paying client and what your reaction was to when you finally flipped from that, oh, I've got to trade time for space, to holy Toledo, people actually want to pay me this amount of money to do what I'm doing?
Yeah, it's trading space for time.
Oh, sorry.
That's fun. So yeah, again, it wasn't really like a single event that really happened, but the kind of the turnaround happened when, as I mentioned, I was reading a lot of marketing books, and I had to basically invent my whole business, from scratch, and that includes like the pricing models, how to close clients, how to write contracts. And so I was basically kind of making this all up as I went. And I guess, what happened was I didn't just pick up a client. I had clients that I built a lot of relationships with people, and I realized that, if someone's going to buy one service from me, they could buy several other services. And so I just kind of learned, like, what was the value ladder that I could offer. So you might have something at the bottom of the value chain, which is like a service that's, say, $150 or $300, and then if that goes well, then they might need something else that's $1,000, and then if that goes well, then they have something that you built for them, and they need to market it. So maybe they'll pay you $1,500 a month after that. So it was really not for my existing services that I already had, but creating new services for my existing clients, and just being indispensable enough that they depended on me to keep their business at the top, to keep the customers coming into the door, and we did that really well. I could promise them results and I deliver them. So as long as they're getting what they want, they're happy to give me what I want. So I was at that point where I'd done that, and I still had other things that I made mistakes along the way that were still to come, but I already had this one business that was making a lot of money, and I tried some other things that didn't work, but I had about 5 people working for me, so I could outsource most of the work, and I was working about 2 hours per day at that point, and just getting recurring income each month from my clients. So then I booked a one-way ticket to South America and spent about 6 months down there. And then, at first I was kind of just going back and forth, between home and just traveling, and I just go somewhere for a few months or 6 months. But now I'm just kind of permanently on the road. I've been traveling now for about 18 months now, with a base here in Thailand, and just kind of exploring this whole region of the world. And yeah, so I've been to 30-something countries now. I lost count.
Man, that is epic. And one of the things I love so much about what you just said, and the direction you took the question in, is because the way the question was asked is what most people think, is that there's going to be this one major client that's going to set them up and just kind of skyrocket them. And what you said was so intense and so deep and so correct, which is, you don't have to be out looking. I'm going to translate. You don't have to be out looking for that one big client. If you have clients in your pipeline, whether you're charging them, whether you're giving them something for free, or whether you're charging them $50 a month, $100 a month, or $1,000 a month, that one of the best ways to increase your business is by saying, what else can I offer this client that they need? Because I've proven I can, that's in my space, and that they'll actually want to get from me, that I can do, or that at least I can make money on, because I've proven I can deliver for them. And let's face it, businesses like to deal with people who prove they can deliver for them, especially entrepreneurs. Especially small, whether it's big business, small business, medium-sized business, whatever it is, businesses want to deal with people who deliver for them. And let me ask you this question, because I was about to take it in a direction and I didn't even ask you about your ideal clients. So at that point, those clients you were working with, were they entrepreneurs? Were they small businesses? Were they solopreneurs? At that point, not necessarily today, but at that point, who were your clients that you ended up building more services for?
I don't think that it's good to work with entrepreneurs or startups. Well, maybe it depends, but not people who are kind of just starting out. It's much better to work with companies that are more established, who already have employees on the payroll, because then you're much more sure that they actually have money to spend, and that they're willing to pay someone full time if they have employees working for them. So I had kind of a sweet spot with small, medium enterprises, companies with maybe, I'd say I'd love to say low end, maybe 20 employees, but more realistically 30 employees to about 100 employees. Companies like that was kind of a sweet spot, because they would have a lot of employees to kind of contractors and employees that would run the operations, but then they don't really have a marketing department. So they might have, it might be something that they delegate to like the assistant manager, or to some VP role or something like that. So they don't really have someone who's kind of really qualified in this regard, and who can really bring specialization to this business.
Dude, you're an epic genius. That's all I gotta say. And I say that in all truth and sincerity. You're an epic genius, because as you're saying that, it's like, well, duh, it makes perfect sense. Companies with 30 to 50, maybe 100 employees are focused on running their business, are focused on building their business the way they know how, and most of those companies don't have the money to invest in a marketing department, or don't think of investing in a true marketing department, or have just started to think about it because they're growing, and there Danny comes in and says, hey, I can do this. And brings in the smile and just says, hey, I'll deliver for you, and brings in that confidence. And not only am I complimenting Danny, but I want you all to really hear that and realize it. Part of the reason that makes Danny successful is he knows what he can deliver. He knows he can deliver, and he walks in with that position of strength and like, look, I can do this for you. And why? Because during his turning point, when he was giving away stuff for free, trading space for time. Is that the right? I'm sorry. Is that the right way to say it? Trading space for time.
Yeah, trading space for time, and I still do that actually. Because when I stopped I was traveling a lot, and I kind of lost interest in the work I was doing with the marketing stuff. So I switched careers, so to speak, and began writing. And now I have 4 best-selling books at the moment. But back then, I was on my savings, as I was trying to get my first book off the ground, and I had to relearn everything from scratch. I was back to square one. So I did that same trading space for time where I was basically hopping around from country to country, and I would do trades with people. I did 2 trades, like I mentioned, the Philippines and Thailand, a few places. I was doing volunteer work in Taiwan where I was helping to build a global village, and all that time, I was really just trying to reduce the amount of pressures that I had to face, things I had to deal with, so that I could just focus on writing the book and writing the best book that I could possibly produce. So I did that same trading space for time tactic when I transitioned out of that business into what I'm doing now. And yeah, and again, to expand on the customer profile, those businesses which I mentioned, a lot of them were family businesses. A lot of them did like home-based services like construction, and they would often have like their son or their daughter who managed the marketing. So they would be doing the marketing, but then they would also be doing like a bunch of admin work. And I think that's where the real opportunity is, because there's a lot of companies out there like that who has someone who's managing maybe an AdWords campaign, for example, but they have no idea what they're doing. They don't know they just want to get their business up at the top of Google, but they don't have like a landing page, that they send the traffic to, for instance. So it's like directing all this traffic in, but then it's all going back out a whole lot,
Yeah.
So it's an example like that. There's a real need there. There's a problem where you can come in and fix that problem, then you have a really good business opportunity.
Yeah, definitely, and I think we'll talk more about that in the 10-hour in section 2. What I want to wrap this kind of section up with to kind of wrap that thought up, for those of you who are going, well, I'm not a marketer, the nugget that Danny just gave you is worth all the time you're going to spend watching this, because buried inside that nugget is that you look for businesses who have a need that you can fill, but that are currently being filled by somebody in the organization who doesn't really have that skill set and would be better off someplace else, who maybe is a self-taught programmer and learned a little bit about WordPress, but really isn't somebody who can make a WordPress site great. Maybe it's marketing, maybe it's advertising. It could be anything. So take your skill, to get to this great aftermath that Danny's got to, you take your skill, whatever that is, you find where it fits in with a company that, an industry or a company that, people are not complete, are doing 2 and 3 and 4 jobs, and you price it right so that people want to, hire you. We could talk forever about this. I'm going to kind of wrap up our Hero's Journey segment here. Today we're talking with Danny Flood, who started off as I'll say a military artist, not really a military artist, but somebody artistic and was in the military, went through, the period of couch surfing and is now on the other side, living what appears to be his dream, now being an author and living a lifestyle where he's created a 10-hour-a-week lifestyle business that is very successful. He's traveling the world, been in over 30 countries. Right now he's coming to us live from Bangkok, which is just awesome. We're going to actually, it's epic. That's, got to be careful. I think somebody just trademarked awesome, so, it's now epic. So we're going to take a very, very quick break. I want you to stick with us through the break. After the break, we're going to talk to Danny about how to create a 10-hour-a-week lifestyle business while traveling the world. And remember, at the very end of today's show, we've got a special offer from Danny. So I want you to hang out, give us 30, 45 seconds, and we'll be right back.
To watch the rest of this epic episode now, click on the link below the video. Do it now, you'll be glad you did. Are you still here? What are you waiting for? Watch the rest of this epic episode now by clicking on the link below the video.